Hey guys, welcome back to Roll Radio. Sitting down here with someone who's just really crushing it at the intersection of sort of Web3 and esports. I'm here with Justin Zheng, co-founder and CEO of Matrix Esports.
Hi, happy to be on.
Awesome. Yeah. So Justin, for those that don't know, give us a little bit about your background and how you got into esports.
Yeah, so I've worked in crypto and esports for a while, I think 4 or 5 years. How did I get into esports? It's been a long time. I started watching esports like end of middle school, beginning of high school. So that was like 5 or 6 years ago. And then so I was just a spectator in it for a while. Then I got a job at an esports journalism company, wrote some articles, and then that was really the catalyst for getting deeper into the business side of things.
Awesome. And then how did you dive into crypto? Was the company an esports crypto company? How'd you gain a passion for crypto in addition to esports?
Yeah, so crypto was about the same time, completely different reason though. It was just like the price of Bitcoin was going up. My friends and I were like, hey, let's get some money. So we actually bought Ethereum, I think at like $7. I ended up selling at 20, which was
Okay.
unfortunate. But with that, I got into this space.
Incredible, yeah. And you're the co-founder and CEO of Matrix. Tell us a little bit about what that is, and what the vision for Matrix is as well.
Yeah, so at Matrix, we're building a platform to allow esport teams to become fan owned. So you think about the concept of fan ownership, there are a lot of traditional sport teams that use this fan ownership model, like FC Barcelona, Real Madrid, the Packers. These are all fan-owned teams, and they're some of the biggest brands in the world. Not just the biggest sport teams, but like the strongest brands out of everything. Um, and then esports has this problem of low fan engagement, where fans they're not loyal to teams, they're loyal to specific players, and they're not doing many actions related to that team. So what we're going to try to do is we're bridging traditional sports, that fan ownership model, with esports, and creating a platform and a tournament system that allows these teams to give ownership to their fans.
It's incredible. Yeah, there's such a long history of fan ownership. I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah.
Cool. So Matrix is going to be this opportunity for esports tournaments. Talk to us a little bit about how Matrix esports tournaments are going to be different from other tournaments.
Yeah, so there's two main ways. One is in your traditional esport tournaments, the teams there, you can't buy a piece of them. So all the teams that play in our tournament, we're gonna work with them to make them fan owned and to make sure that fans can have a piece of them. And that leads us to all these cool things where maybe if your favorite team, Team X, wins the tournament, not only does Team X get rewards or get a trophy, but everyone that has ownership in them also receives something. Um, and we can do things like with betting, with maybe even having them affecting the game itself. So instead of just being a viewer and a spectator, you're now an active participant in the game. So that's something unique to us. And then the second one is we also apply fan ownership to our own organization. So in our tournaments, the teams themselves can vote on rules, and the fans themselves can also vote on rules. So instead of like with traditional sports or even with esports, where the rules are set, the game stays basically the same every time, and the viewers don't have input in it. With our system, the viewers are able to influence the game they see.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's a really democratized model. So talk to us a little bit about some of the games that Matrix is competitive in. What are some of the games you guys do tournaments for?
Yeah, so our main focus right now is mobile games, mostly in Southeast Asia, especially India. That we run tournaments everywhere. The reason for that is I think mobile games is going to be huge. Everyone has a phone. Um, it's like soccer, right? Soccer is the most played game in the world because of how accessible it is, and the same holds true for mobile games. So those are games like PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, Brawl Stars. We are expanding, so now we're doing Valorant, the new game from Riot, because we do want to reach a new audience.
Amazing. And how do these teams work within Matrix? What's your relationship with the teams?
Yeah, so we do run some of our own teams. Um, Not as like a revenue stream. The main reason for that is we want to have a really fast feedback loop for testing. So if we have in-house teams, then we can test with them, and we can also use them as a marketing tool and show other teams how crowd ownership works.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And then with teams that we don't own, we'll work with them to set up this crowd ownership model to become successful with their fans.
It's incredible. Yeah. So if me and my friends started a team, we can just jump into a Matrix tournament. It doesn't need to be sort of this sort of Matrix owned team or vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. Most of our tournaments are still open access, right? So anyone can go in through a qualifier. Some of them are closed, but we're trying to make it in the spirit of like democracy and everything to have a pipeline for any team to be able to eventually work their way up into the high levels of our tournament.
Incredible. I'm just curious, what's the breakdown between sort of a Matrix owned team and sort of other teams that are in tournaments right now?
Yeah, so as far as Matrix own team, we only have two. Um, right, because we're switching a lot of our focus to platforms and tournaments. And then we have several hundred teams just playing in our tournaments. So it's like it's mostly not us.
Cool. Yeah, that brings me to my next question here. So, just heard through the grapevine that Matrix is growing pretty fast. Can you give us an idea of what are your KPIs as sort of a tournament platform, and what are they? How are they growing?
Yeah, so in terms of tournaments, we track how many teams are playing. In terms of platform, we haven't started rolling that out yet. We're going to do that later this month. But we'll just be tracking how many people are using it, how many teams are using it, how many people are trading on it, and all that. As far as teams, we're growing at slightly over 200% month over month. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we have what? I think we're at 4,000 something players now. So yeah, we've been really happy with our numbers there.
it's incredible. If you keep up that growth, you're going to take over the world. That's
Yeah.
um, talk to me about just for sort of a like an esports layman, like what are some of the differences in teams? Like what makes a good PUBG team versus sort of a Call of Duty mobile team? Is it sort of the same skill set? How do you think about the differences in teams and what makes a great team for each sport?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that for hours, right? It's definitely like a subject that's been looked into a lot. Um, I think there's two main differentiators between esports teams right now. One of them is like half of the team, or not half the teams, but one set of teams is focused on being really good competitively and being a super good team. Those are teams like TSM, Genji, teams like that. And then some other teams are focused on being really influencer friendly and just getting a large audience, like 100 Thieves and FaZe Clan. So there are really two ways of looking at success, right? Like some of the most successful esports teams are not the highest performing, but they have the largest fan bases. But then in terms of high competitive performance, right? That's a lot of like coaching staff, having a good training environment, consistent schedules and all that. That really makes a big difference.
Cool. Yeah. And so earlier you really wrapped around this idea of fan ownership for a team. How do you sort of apply that with sort of Web3 and blockchain? What does that look like? Is that the concept of a team token? Is it something else? Can you sort of walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, it's definitely like focused around the idea of a token. So teams would be able to release a token to their fans, and then that token can represent different things. In the beginning, we expect it not to have be like true ownership. Mostly going to be symbolic. You can use it to trade for prizes and things, trade it with other people. But I think we're going to gradually see over time teams start to use it as like literal equity, legal equity in their company. Because that's like a super powerful idea. I think that's how you get the most engagement by having your fans literally become your owners.
Yeah, it's an incredible model. It would be so interesting to see in esports.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you sort of think about that shift? Like how would team tokens work? How do you sort of introduce it in the Matrix environment?
Yeah. So there's definitely like we want to do it in a like gradual decentralization way you see with other products like Compound, where the first teams you work with, we're gonna release this token to them. They'll just drop it over to Discord. They could have the fans do different things to own it, like tweet something and then you get a token. And then they'll just be trading it over Discord. And then over time, we're going to look to build more like DAO features into it. So a team can set aside capital and allow their fans to vote on it. And as the teams get more confidence in our product, and as we fine tune everything, we'll move towards it being more and more, giving more and more control to fans.
It's amazing. Yeah, that progressive decentralization model really works. I know,
Yeah.
Jesse Walden talks about that a lot as well. So if everyone has sort of a team token that you guys are bringing on, and you're creating this new model that's sort of reward based, and it gets sort of progressively decentralized, what's the bigger play for Matrix? Like, obviously, people are going to want to trade these tokens. How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can do a lot of things around this. Possibilities are like literally infinite, right? We can do, I mean, obviously we're going to make some sort of market, like a super easy to use system for people to be trading these tokens with each other. Like Robinhood is taking off right now. So we see that people really want, like, no one has any, or very little people have like a deep loyalty to, I don't know, what's a stock that's popping up around, like Hertz, right? Like no one cares about Hertz. No one's like, I'm gonna have this Hertz jersey. I'm gonna go to all the Hertz games and all that. But like people really want to trade it. So we see that even if people don't have deep loyalty into these teams, they still want to be trading the token. So that's something we can make money off through transactions, and we can build basically like a meta game um, on top of esports of this game of trading tokens. Um, and then other things are just like every time a team's fans do different activities like voting, or betting with their tokens, or any like layer 3 applications, or I guess layer 4 applications, then we can take fees off that and then grow along with the ecosystem.
Amazing. Yeah, it's super interesting to just imagine a world where your favorite team has sort of their own token. What do
Right.
you think this world looks like at scale? With so many teams having tokens, how does the average fan sort of engage? What do you think that world looks like in a few years?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? It's gonna probably be, if you just imagine a mix between fantasy sports, which is a huge market, and then sports betting, another huge market, and then the stock market, which is also massive. And you combine all those three things together in this like super gamified system, something like that, right? Where you have these hardcore fans holding tokens because they're loyal to it, and then on the other side, you have people who are looking to play this game, basically trading tokens, and it's all becomes like this market. um, and yeah, like there's gonna be something for everyone. Some people are gonna want to vote and try to get their team to be the best team possible. So there'll be like the fantasy sport players that have lots of fun with that. And then your traditional sport fans are gonna hold it as symbolism, and then your traders will trade it.
Amazing. Yeah. And Justin, who's the audience here? Like, as sort of like an esports audience member, like, do I need to be pretty proficient in sort of, blockchain and Web3? Do I need to sort of have a Ethereum wallet with sort of a seed phrase, or can sort of the average fan get involved in Team Token? Walk us through.
Yeah, the plan is definitely to make it accessible to everyone. That's gonna take time, right? Like crypto tools aren't the easiest to use, but we're building our first things with like a Discord interface with Discord bots. So anyone who's already familiar with Discord, which every gamer and esport fan is, will be able to use it. Of course, like the finer control of things like different markets and DeFi systems, if we want to build it into that, that's still harder to use. But I think eventually, like, there's great people in crypto building like accessibility to it and everything. As crypto grows, we'll grow with it, and everything will be easier to use.
Exactly. Yeah, that totally see that. And let's see here. And Justin, like, how big do you think the market is for something like Team Tokens?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely in the billions of dollars, I think, right? Because I think every single team will benefit from crowd ownership. Like the numbers you've seen, like everyone wants to have this feeling of ownership. It's like a basic human need. Um, so yeah, everyone's gonna want it. And then you look at like what is the total valuation of the world sports teams? It's probably pretty high. Um, Then if we tokenize all that, that's pretty big. And then esports, I think, will overtake sports one day, traditional sports one day. So yeah, I think like this is a massive market opportunity.
Yeah, I keep on going back to that idea you said earlier of sort of the game within the game, and just sort of like
Yeah,
developers are just going to create games around team tokens that you could even play
right.
even if the teams aren't even
Yeah, exactly.
playing. Um, you're absolutely right. It's a massive market. I think you're going to be the first mover here. It's super exciting. You talked a little bit about this idea of sort of like the future of esports. Do you think there will be sort of this convergence around games where really only like 4 or 5 matter, or sort of only tier 1 games, and then the rest are sort of like tier 2 or tier 3, um, sort of like how we're seeing now with traditional sports? And if so, what are those 4 or 5 games that you think are going to matter in the next few years?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I tend to think that yeah, we will converge, but I do think the shift will be faster cycles than in traditional sports because if the developers are constantly working on new games. But then in the near future, like next 4 or 5 years, my bets are on League of Legends because that's already the biggest esport in the world. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Um, and then Valorant, which is the new Riot game from the League of Legends creator that just came out, um, which is like this mix between Counter Strike, which is also one of the biggest esports, and Overwatch, which is also pretty big. So I think that's going to be huge. And then finally, I do think this is slightly contrarian, but I think the biggest esports in the world, I think it would probably overtake several traditional sports, is Wild Rift, which is mobile League of Legends.
Oh,
So you're combining the highest performing video game IP ever with mobile devices, like the most used device. You put this together, I think it's going to be massive, and it's probably going to be the biggest game for a long time.
it's incredible. Yeah. So the future of esports is really team tokens around Valorant games and sort of all the other games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because all three of those games I just listed are all from the same developer.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta get in touch
yeah,
with
they're definitely doing very well in the esports space. Yeah.
that. And then just wrapping up, Justin, what's next for Matrix? What does the rest of 2020 look like for you? What does 2021 look like?
Yeah, so we're starting to get teams off our wait list now and start doing alpha testing for the platform. Once that goes well, we're going to expand to more teams, do more tournaments, and then just grow from there. I think in 2021, we'll probably be running some of the bigger tournaments in the esports space. And then it will be the first opportunity for people to really have ownership in the sports they're watching.
It's absolutely incredible, man. I think you're going to introduce Web3 to like a whole new audience. It's
Yeah,
extremely.
that's definitely like a great secondary effect of this. Because crypto has way more benefits than just gaming, right? There are like incredibly good things you can do with it. So hopefully this becomes like the portal
Absolutely.
to people getting into crypto. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you can onboard millions of people in this way. It's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
How can people find you? How can teams get in touch with you? How can we follow what's going on with Matrix? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So best way to be really in touch with what we're doing is to be on Discord. If you go to discord.gg/matrix, you can join our Discord, talk to us, talk to our teams, talk to players, talk to fans, and get all the new announcements. And then also on Twitter, twitter.com/yourmatrix. That's a great place to get new news and what we're working on.
Awesome, Justin. Well, this has been great. Thanks for stopping by Roll Radio.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.